Someone insults you, and in just 3 seconds, you either lose your dignity or you gain complete control of the situation. Most people fail this moment without even realizing it. Today, I'm going to show you a simple psychological response music that makes insults lose their power instantly and often makes music the person regrets saying anything at all. If you've ever stayed silent after an insult and later wished you handled it differently, type control music in the comments because learning this skill changes every relationship you'll ever have. Most insults are not music, honest evaluations of you. They are emotional projections coming from the other person's internal state. When someone insults you, what you are often hearing is frustration, music, insecurity, jealousy, stress, or a need for control being expressed through words. Human beings rarely attack from a position of emotional balance. A calm and confident person greater than music greater than usually has no psychological reason to belittle someone else because their self-worth is already stable. The insult therefore becomes less about your behavior and more about what the other person is experiencing internally, music, at that moment. Psychologically, projection happens when people struggle to deal with uncomfortable feelings inside music themselves. Instead of facing those feelings, they push them outward and attach them to someone else. A music person who secretly feels inadequate may call others incompetent. Someone afraid of rejection may mock others first to avoid feeling vulnerable. By criticizing you, they temporarily reduce their own emotional discomfort. This is why insults often feel exaggerated or strangely music personal even when the person barely knows you. They are not responding to reality. They are responding music to emotion. Understanding this changes how you interpret the situation. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" you begin asking, "What is happening inside them that made them say this?" This shift immediately lowers emotional damage because you stop absorbing words as facts. Your brain moves from defense mode into observation mode. Emotional distance appears, and with distance comes control. Music, you recognize that reacting emotionally would mean participating in their emotional storm rather than staying grounded in your own stability. When you realize insults are projections, you stop chasing approval or trying to prove your music worth in that moment. You also notice patterns. People often insult in areas where they themselves feel threatened. The comment becomes information about their mindset, not a measurement of your value. This awareness protects confidence because your identity is no longer shaped by random emotional outbursts from others. Instead of feeling attacked, you begin to see the interaction almost analytically, recognizing that the insult reveals far more about the speaker's inner conflict than about you. Your first reaction determines who holds power in the moment, music, because insults are designed to trigger an automatic emotional response before you have time to think. The human brain is wired for protection, so when someone, music, says something disrespectful, the nervous system interprets it almost like a threat. Heart rate, music, increases, muscles tense, and the mind searches for a quick defense. This reaction feels natural, but it silently transfers control of the interaction to the person who provoked you. The moment you react impulsively, you are no longer choosing your behavior. You are responding, music, to theirs. Power in social situations is not about who speaks louder or delivers the sharpest comeback. It is about emotional regulation. The person who stays composed controls the pace, tone, and direction of the conversation. Music, when you react instantly with anger or defensiveness, you confirm that the insult reached you emotionally, which often encourages the other person to continue. They learn that a few words are enough, music, to influence your emotional state. Even a clever comeback can weaken your position if it comes from visible irritation because it shows that your emotions were moved first. There is also a psychological timing element. Emotional reactions happen fast, but thoughtful responses, music, require a pause. That pause is where power exists. When you slow down instead of reacting, you interrupt the expected pattern. The other person anticipates resistance or anger, and when it does not appear, uncertainty replaces, music, their confidence. Silence or calmness forces them to sit with their own words, sometimes making them aware of how unnecessary or aggressive they sounded. Your reaction also shapes how observers perceive the interaction. People naturally associate calm behavior with confidence and emotional maturity, while impulsive reactions are often interpreted as insecurity even when the insult itself was unfair. Without saying anything, your composure communicates self-control and self-respect. Over time, music. Others learn that provoking you does not produce entertainment or emotional drama, which reduces future disrespect. By managing the first few seconds after an insult, you move from being emotionally music pulled into the situation to consciously guiding it. The power shifts not because you defeated the other person, music, but because you refused to surrender control of your emotional state to someone else's words. Silence is often stronger than instant defense because it disrupts the psychological expectation behind an insult. When someone insults you, they usually anticipate a predictable reaction, arguing back, explaining music yourself, or showing visible frustration. This expectation gives them a sense of control before you even respond. The moment you rush to defend yourself, you step into the role they unconsciously assigned to you. Silence music removes that script entirely. Instead of feeding momentum into the conflict, you create a pause that forces the other person to confront their music own words without resistance. Human communication relies heavily on feedback. People adjust their behavior based on reactions they receive. When there is no immediate response, the brain experiences uncertainty. The person who delivered the insult begins to question whether their comment landed as intended. Was it ignored? Was it considered unimportant? Did it fail to provoke emotion? This uncertainty often produces music discomfort, and discomfort shifts psychological pressure back onto the speaker. Greater than music, greater than suddenly, they are the one feeling exposed rather than powerful. Silence also protects you from emotional escalation. Instant defense usually comes from emotion rather than clarity, which increases the chance of saying something you later regret. Words spoken in reaction often escalate the situation because they carry emotional charge instead of intention. By staying quiet for a moment, you allow your nervous system to settle, giving logic time to catch up with emotion. This creates space for a deliberate response instead of an automatic one. There is another subtle effect. Silence communicates confidence when it is calm rather than withdrawn. It signals that you do not feel compelled to justify yourself immediately. People who are secure in their identity do not rush to prove their worth, and others instinctively recognize this. The absence of urgency sends a nonverbal message that the insult did not define you strongly enough to demand defense. Greater than music, greater than over time. This changes how others approach you because they learn that attempts to provoke emotional reactions do not succeed, and interactions with you begin to shift toward respect or cautious restraint, creating a dynamic where emotional control quietly shapes the balance of influence in ways that words alone rarely achieve. Emotional control creates psychological dominance because human interactions are guided less by logic and more by emotional signals. When an insult happens, both people enter an invisible emotional negotiation. One person attempts to provoke and the other either maintains stability or loses balance. The individual who regulates their emotions becomes the emotional anchor of the situation, and people instinctively orient themselves around the most stable presence in any interaction. This is not about suppressing feelings, but about choosing how and when those feelings are expressed. When someone reacts emotionally, their behavior becomes predictable. Greater than music, greater than raised voice, defensive explanations, sarcasm, or visible anger all reveal internal disturbance. Predictability gives the other person leverage because they now understand how to influence you. Emotional control removes that leverage. A calm expression, steady tone, and measured pace introduce uncertainty. The person who initiated the insult can no longer easily read or manipulate the outcome, and uncertainty weakens aggressive behavior because the expected reward, emotional impact, does not appear. Psychologically, humans associate calmness with authority. Leaders, negotiators, and confident individuals tend to slow situations down rather than speed them up. When you remain emotionally composed, observers subconsciously interpret you as the person in control even if you say very little. The brain reads emotional steadiness as strength because it signals security and self-trust. This shifts social dynamics without confrontation. The insult loses intensity because emotional energy is not being matched or amplified. Emotional control also protects decision-making. Strong emotions narrow perception and push the brain towards short-term reactions aimed at relief rather than effectiveness. By regulating emotion, you keep access to reasoning, allowing you to choose whether to respond question, disengage, or even use humor strategically. The interaction music becomes something you manage instead of something you survive. Over time, people learn that attempts to provoke you do not produce emotional chaos, and this changes how they approach you in future conversations, creating an environment where respect music grows not from force or clever words, but from consistent emotional stability that quietly establishes influence music without needing validation or approval from anyone involved in the moment. Not every insult deserves a response because attention itself is a form of reward, and many insults exist only to pull you into unnecessary emotional engagement. People often assume strength means answering every disrespectful comment, but true strength lies in discernment, knowing which situations are worth your energy and which are simply distractions. Every response you give consumes mental focus, emotional stability, and time. When you react to every negative remark, you allow other people to decide where your attention goes, and attention is one of the most valuable psychological resources you possess. Many insults are impulsive, careless, or driven by temporary emotions rather than meaningful music intent. Responding to them gives weight to something that may have faded on its own. Some individuals insult music, others specifically to create drama, gain attention, or provoke entertainment from conflict. When you respond, even calmly, you validate music their attempt by participating. Ignoring certain comments removes the payoff they were seeking. Without reaction, the behavior often loses motivation because there is no emotional return. Selective response also communicates self-respect. When you choose not to engage, greater than music greater than you silently show that your standards for interaction are higher than casual negativity. This is different from avoidance or music weakness. It is intentional restraint. You are not remaining silent because you lack words, but because the situation does not meet of importance required for your involvement. Others begin to notice that access to your attention must be earned through respect music rather than provocation. There is also a practical advantage. Not every insult comes from a person whose opinion holds music value in your life. Feedback matters only when it comes from someone informed, greater than music greater than constructive, or relevant to your growth. Responding equally to all criticism places meaningful voices and meaningless noise on the same level. By choosing carefully, you protect your emotional clarity and prevent minor interactions from shaping your mood or behavior. Over time, this habit changes social dynamics around you. People learn that attempts to provoke reactions music do not succeed, while respectful communication receives engagement. Your silence music becomes a